So Bspc has a bunch of different subcommands, and today we're going to be taking a look at the node command and the selectors for it. So if you're new to this channel, remember to subscribe and ding the little bell icon down below because it'll really help the channel out. I'm aiming for 1,000 subs and any help would be really appreciated. So now that's out of the way, let's get started. Good afternoon everyone and welcome back to the channel. So let's get some definitions out of the way. So a node is effectively a window. So there is some slight differences, like you can allocate a node that doesn't have a window in it, but for general usage it's probably fine to think of them as the same thing. So let's actually have a look at the man page for this. So I've got it open here. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going over the structure of the node command, then I'm going to go over selectors, then I'm going to go over the commands. So the way that a Bspc node command works is actually very, very simple. So let's have a quick look. So the way that it works, you write Bspc node, and then the selectors for the nodes that you want to affect. So let's say we want to do something on the focus node. It doesn't really matter if you don't know what the actual selectors are just yet. I'll show you that briefly. So we're going to do something on the focus node. Let's say that we want to run -c on it. So in this case, -c is close. So what that's going to do is it's going to kill this window. So as we can see, that works just as we'd expect. One thing to point out is if you don't put a selector in, then I believe the way that it works is it just takes the focused window. Yep, so that will basically say, do something on the focused window if I don't have a selector. So the focused window is the default selector, basically. So let's actually jump up to the selectors for the nodes. So there's a bunch of them. I'm going to try to explain them as well as I can, but obviously I don't use all of them, so you're going to have to play around with some of them if anything that I say isn't entirely correct. Most of the ones that are important, though, I do understand perfectly fine. So you've probably never seen this syntax unless you've done like a computer science course or you're really into reading software documentation. So I'm not going to explain this in this video, but I will show you some examples of how it works so you can probably piece it together yourself and work it out through your own testing. So anyway, onto the actual selectors. So the first one we have in here is dir, which you don't actually write dir out, you just use one of the dir selectors. So this will select a window in the given spatial direction relative to the reference node. So the spatial directions are the cardinal directions, so north, south, east, and west. So if we have this node here, this node is to the east of this node here. Basically like that. There's nothing too special about that. You can probably work out the directions on a compass. And you also have the cycle dir. So this node is the next node after this node. And this node is the previous node to this node. So those are the two cyclic directions that you can work with, next and prev. I'll show you exactly. I'm pretty sure it's next and prev, not previous. Yes. So next and prev are your cyclic directions. You're probably not going to use those ones much. Same with this path. So I've mentioned it previously, but Bspwm maintains its windows through a node tree. Now, I've said that the node tree probably isn't too important to think about, and I stand by that. So if you want to learn how paths work within Bspc, you're going to have to do it for yourself because I haven't even bothered to even slightly look into that. Same with jumps and things like that. But the rest of the stuff is actually fairly useful. So we've got this any option in here. I don't know why I opened this. Actually, let's show an example, actually. That's probably a good idea. So if we go Bspc node any, that's what this is doing right here. So this will select the node that matches the given selector. So in this case, it will select the first node that it finds. So with any, you probably aren't going to use this one because it's going to, unless you have a good understanding of the node tree, it's going to feel like it's adding randomness. Now, it's not, but as I said, unless you understand the node tree well, it will feel like that. So next up we have last. So last will select the previously focused node relative to the reference node. So in this case, I'm currently focused on this window where my cursor is moving. So the previous node, or the last node, is this node on the left here. Now newest is this node here because this is the newest focused node. But if I was to move my focus to the window to the left, that would then be the newest node. So older selects the node older than the reference node in history. So I believe that is in creation history. So this node here was created first, so this node is older than this node. And likewise, this node is newer than this node. Focused works exactly as you would expect it to. So that will select the node that, as I showed you before, is the currently focused node. Pointed in my system means the exact same thing as focused because my focus follows my pointer. But if you don't have it set up like that, then you can say, I want to do something to the node that I have my cursor over. So biggest does exactly what you'd expect it to do, sort of. So I'm going to do a separate video on desktop selectors and monitor selectors, but biggest doesn't refer to the biggest node on the current desktop. So in this case, so you would expect that if you're on this desktop, this current one that you are focused on, then the biggest node would be this node on the left. But in reality, I'll just show you. So if we go biggest and we go -C, so that will actually kill this node right here. So we run that, and now this window is no longer here. So I'm going to do a separate video on the query syntax and all of the other sorts of selectors, because there are occasions like that where you're going to run into situations where it's going to behave in a weird way because you have other desktops. If you only use one desktop, then it will function exactly like you'd expect. But if you're only using one, I'm not really sure why you're using a tiling window manager. Unless you're someone who just really likes tabbing, I guess? Yeah, I guess you could have tabbing windows. So smallest also behaves in the same way. So in this case, you would expect this to be the smallest window, but let's say we have like a bunch here. So in reality, this isn't the smallest window, but one of these are. So I believe when there is a tie, it will pick the newest one or the oldest. I actually don't know which one it picks when there's a tie. Let's find that out. So if we go smallest -C, that will kill the newer one. Okay, sure. And then lastly, we have the node ID. So each of the nodes has a ID assigned to it. So you can use the query syntax to get those IDs, and then you can refer to those nodes directly. So as I said, I'll go over that in that video. So next up, we have the path jumps. So as I mentioned previously, this has to do with working directly with the node tree. So this will let you actually say, I want to select a child of this node, I want to select the brother, or I want to select the parent of this node. As I've said, you don't really need to work with the tree for the most part. Unless you're doing something completely off the wall, you can generally get away with just working with the descriptors, the modifiers, and then working directly with the node IDs within the query syntax, basically 99% of the time, unless you're doing something weird. So anyway, let's actually go on to the modifiers. I'm not going to go over path jumps, but I'll leave some documentation if I can find some. So there is a focused modifier, and this does the exact same thing as the focused within the descriptors. So if we have a look over here, we've got this example here. So I'm selecting the focused node. So in this case, focused isn't the modifier, it is the descriptor. And the modifier in this case is tiled. So unless I'm mistaking it, you can't actually chain the descriptors together, but you can use any of these descriptors as the base point. So say you want to select the focused node, and then you can use any of these modifiers added onto it. So you can say .focused, .automatic, .leaf, and all of those. So the focused modifier will do exactly what you expect it to do. And also you have this option of using the exclamation mark in here. So this will say, it will just do a not, basically, if you've ever worked with any programming languages. Do I have an example in here? No. So if you say you want to select the nodes that are not focused, you can add the exclamation mark directly before this. So active will only consider the nodes that are focused on their desktop. So the reason that these are in here is because you can actually say you want focus on more than one window through some of the Bspc commands. So focus will consider focus across all of the desktops, whereas active will only consider focused on the current desktop. I believe is how that works. Yeah, maybe. Try that one out for yourself. Automatic is one I haven't used because I just use automatic insertion mode. But if you use manual insertion mode, you can say you only want to consider the nodes that are in automatic. And we've got local here. So this will only consider nodes in the reference desktop. Wait, is that gonna... Oh, I think I've overcomplicated one of my scripts. So I think this will select nodes that are only on the current desktop. I had some confusing... Actually, it's this script right here, where I was using Bspc query. I think I can just use local to deal with that instead. So next up we have leaf. So this will only consider the nodes that are at the bottom of the tree. So if you've never worked with a tree in computer science, they're upside down. The leaves are on the bottom, the root is at the top. Don't question it, that's just how they work. But this will only consider the leaf nodes. So I don't actually know which nodes are the leaf nodes. I think they might be the newest created node or something like that. As I said, I don't really consider the tree, so I can't actually tell you how that works. So next up we have window. So I did mention earlier that you can have nodes that don't have windows in them. Things like Discord and Slack will occasionally do that, where they'll allocate a window space and not actually put a window in there, but generally everything's gonna have a window in it. So next up we have, you can select a node that's in one of these states, so tiled, pseudo-tiled, floating, and full screen. So you can use Bspc to actually change which state a node is in. Same class, says only select nodes that are the same type of window. So in this case, this is an ST window, this is an ST window. This is PCManFM, and then if I was to open up Firefox, that would be a Firefox window, so on and so forth. So basically what the name of the program is. So descendant of will select not just the direct child of a node in the tree, but all of the descendants of it. And then ancestor of will select not just the direct parent of a node, but all of the parents and the parents' parents. So next up we have the flags that we can set on Windows, and we can select with those. So hidden, sticky, private, locked, marked, and urgent. And then you can also, I've mentioned this when I was trying to deal with my polybar problem, but you can actually say I want a window above a certain window or below a certain window. So you can use this modifier to select windows based on that. So if we go now down to the commands, so these are the different things you can do to Windows. I'll try to run through these, but I don't use most of them, and I don't think most of them are super useful. You can focus on a window with the -F option. You can activate a window with the -A option. You can use these options in here to send a node to a desktop, a monitor, or to another node. I'm not sure what sending it to a node actually does. Yeah, I haven't used that one. So swap is actually an interesting one. So if I was to run swap on this node right here and swap it with this one, it would basically just do this. So I've got a binding for that where it will just swap its location. Then we've also got this pre-cell dir, which I've never worked with. Pre-cell ratio is another one I haven't worked with. Move will move the window, and you can define how much you want to move it by, or a exact position you want to move it to. So with this command, this point up in this corner right here, that is 0, 0. So you also have the option of doing resize and resizing with a direction. So if you want to resize it from the top, you want to resize it from the left. I know that my left is backwards for you, but anyway, it's my left. And then you can give a amount that you want to resize it by. With this, you can give it a amount, or you can give it the exact size you want to resize it to. You can define I didn't know you could do that. You can define a window splitting ratio. So if you create a window right now, it'll just take up half of its position. So if you wanted to say only give it 20% or only give it 30%, you could also do that. So this rotate in here doesn't do like what you would think a rotate does. It rotates the tree. So that will basically change which nodes are the children and which nodes are the parents. That is a bit too high level for me to really explain in this video. But basically it will rotate the tree. So if you know what tree rotations are, then that's what that does. So you can also flip the tree upside down. Or you can also flip it horizontally. So that will change what the parents are and what the children are. Once again, same with the rotate. If you know what that does to a tree, then that's what it does. But I'm not going to explain it in this video. So we also have some other stuff for modifying the tree. I'm not going to jump through that because some of it I don't really understand. Some of it I don't really think is useful. So next up we have the state. So windows have different states. So right now this window is in tiled mode, but you also have the option of doing pseudo-tiled. That one I'm not sure about. I think it acts... I I think that might be the monocle view. Maybe. I'm not sure what pseudo-tiled means. But we also have floating. Floating does what you expect floating to do. This is a floating window. And then full screen is full screen. So that one's also pretty obvious. We can set a flag for a window. So we can set it to hidden. Hidden does what you'd expect to do. Sticky, I think, means that it won't move. Private, I'm not sure about. Same with locked and marked. But if we want to set any of those flags, basically we'd go Bspc node. Let's just use the focus window, for example. And then we go -G, and then whichever of the flags we want to set. So let's say we want to set this one to hidden equals true. So if we run that now, this node will now be hidden. So now I can bring it back with my sort of hacky command. Anyway, we can change the layer of a window. So if we want to send it to being above this window, if we want to send it to below this window, or we want to put it on the same layer. So basically, I can't really show that unless I was to use a floating window. So I could send a floating window behind this window right here. Or I could send it back to being above. Next up, we have the insert receptacle. I have literally zero idea what this does, so I'm not even going to try to explain it. If someone knows, let me know in the comment section down below, and I will reply to your comment and mention it in the next video I do on Bspc. So lastly, we have close and kill. So close will do what you expect it to do. So as I showed you before, it will close a window. But kill, someone mentioned to me that XDO uses signal 15 for kill. I don't know if it's the same with Bspc. If someone knows if that's correct or not, let me know. And yeah, basically just let me know. So effectively, for most situations, they will do the same thing. But I'm not sure the situations where they actually differ. Now, I think that's pretty much everything for those, but I'll show you a few examples that I've got laying around just so you can maybe get a better idea of how this actually works. So we go into here. So on this third line in here, we've got this Bspc node command. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting the focus window that is tiled. So that is my selector. And then the command that I'm using is -T. So with this, I'm setting the focus window that is tiled to full screen mode. So in this case, that is setting this current window here into full screen mode. So if I actually run that command, which I've got bound to super F, that will then full screen this window. And then we've got the opposite of it here as well. So down on line 6, Bspc node focused dot full screen -T tiled. So that is setting the focus window that is in full screen mode back to tiled. So that I'm just using for dealing with full screen. So I've got another command where I'm working with that. So if we go over here on this fifth line here, so it doesn't really matter if you don't understand this Bspc query command. Basically what that's doing is it's getting all of the tiled windows that are on the focus desktop. And then I'm looping through them and then running this Bspc node command. So what this is doing is it's taking the ID of the node and then it's running the -G command. And I'm setting hidden to on. So if we remember back with the node selectors, one of the selectors you could use is the actual ID for the node. So that's the selector that I'm using right now. And then, as I said, the command -G, I'm setting all of those windows to hidden mode. So yeah, that's pretty much what that does. There's nothing really else to explain for that. So I think that's pretty much everything for this video. So if you like this video, remember to smash that like button and leave me a comment down below letting me know what you think. So as I said, I'm going to do a video on the desktop selectors and the monitor selectors, as well as doing a video on the query syntax and working with all of them at once. That video is going to be mainly examples. So if you want to see those videos when they come out, remember to subscribe and ding the little bell icon down below because it'll really help the channel out. I'm aiming for 1,000 subs and any help be really appreciated. Up on that corner, I've got the playlist this video's in, so go check that out if you want to see other videos like this. Down below, I've got my library, so if you want to see my videos on a platform that isn't YouTube, that's the best place to go for that. And also my Discord, so if you want to chat with me, go there. I'm in there most days, so feel free to send me a message or just leave a message in general, and I'll get to it at some point. So also down below, I've got my support links, so if you'd like to support the channel, that's the best place to go for that. And I've got a couple of crypto wallets there, and also my PayPal and my Patreon, so any of those will be really appreciated. Obviously, you don't have to. If you want to just keep watching the videos for free, they'll remain available for free, so don't feel pressured to actually start supporting the channel. Lastly, I've got my Twitter and my Mastodon, so if you want to get video updates, that's the best place to go for those. So yeah, YouTube can't be trusted to push them to anyone, so go to Twitter and Mastodon and you actually get the video updates. So I think that's pretty much everything for me now, so I'm out.